Hey guys, this is a follow-up to my previous RS-97 video. In the previous one, it was sort of a review and how to get custom firmware on the RS-97. With the latest version of the firmware at 2.1, the process has changed slightly and I wanted to run through it quickly for you. The custom firmware is now more modular and separated into two parts. The base image, which doesn't really change much, and then the emulator, games, and applications pack. I like this since it's much easier to update. You don't have to burn an image every time a new version comes out. You just copy over updated emulators and applications. This method, like the previous one, won't require you to open up your device. It will also leave the internal microsd storage running the stock firmware, and it will make the custom firmware run off the external microsd. This way, you can easily revert back to the default firmware by just ejecting the external microSD card. Like always, links to everything I mentioned will be in the description. First thing you'll need is a 4GB microSD card at a minimum. It's recommended to have like 8 or 16 or more. For me, I'm just going to use an 8GB one since it's enough for me. But if you plan on having PlayStation 1 games, you'll probably need 16 or 32. Now we'll need to copy the external firmware loader onto the micro SD card temporarily. And what we're going to do is essentially just install it onto the RS-97. And what that will do is make it so that whenever you have an external microSD card, it will load the firmware from that. So copy these files onto the microSD card, and then we're going to stick it into the RS-97 and then run the install.dge file. Place the SD card into this cartridge adapter and then plug it into the RS-97. Then what you want to do is turn on the device by holding down the power button on the left hand side, and you want to scroll to the right and choose the file browser and hit A. And then from here, what you want to do is go to the previous directory and then select SD card, and then click on the install.dge, click open, and this will install the necessary files to boot the image from the SD card adapter. And in the next step, we'll repurpose the microSD card and we're going to burn the custom firmware image onto it. And after installing the external firmware loader, we can repurpose the microSD card. So download the 97 Next custom firmware and unzip the package. So this is zipped with 7-zip. So go to the website if you don't already have it and install 7-zip, and this way you can extract the file, which is an image file, IMG file that you can burn using Etcher or Win32 Disk Imager. Just make sure you have the right drive selected for your microSD card and click the right button. If you don't want to use Win32 Disk Imager, you can also use Etcher, which is pretty good too. This is what I'm using, and it's the exact same process where you select the image and the drive and then you click flash. And after writing the disk image, if you used a bigger microSD card, say an 8GB, we want to use this program to resize the partition so you have access to the full size of the microSD card for ROMs. And we're going to download this partition manager. It's a free one. And what you want to do is download that and install it. And after installing, you want to run the application. And this is where we want to resize the ROMs partition. So there's a number of them already for this disk on the microSD card. And you want to find one that says ROMs, FAT32. And we want to make use of this basically unallocated space. So choose extend. And then what you want to do is basically slide the thing over to the right to maximize it, and then go OK. And then after that, you want to click apply. So as you can see, it's a lot bigger now. And click apply, yes. And this process should take a couple of minutes depending on the speed of your computer, but I'm going to fast forward through this part. After resizing the partition, what we're going to do is put the microSD card into your RS-97 card adapter to boot the custom firmware. If you take out the microSD card, it will basically boot the stock firmware. And then we're going to plug it up to your computer using a mini USB cable. So while holding down the B button, turn on the RS-97, and Windows should detect the partitions. So starting with 2.0 of the custom firmware, you need to download additional pack that includes the emulators, application, and games over to the microSD card because they aren't installed by default. So unpack the emulators, 7-zip, and then what you want to do is copy some of the emulators that you plan to run onto the microsd card in the emus folder. So I only copy the ones that I use. There's a whole bunch of emulators, but I don't plan on using all of them. So just select the ones that you want and then drag them over to the microsd card. And you also need to obviously put some ROMs on there. So in the ROMs folder, I create some more folders for each of the various emulators that I run. So a Super Nintendo, etc. All those ROMs go in this folder. So after copying all the files like the emulators and the ROMs to the RS-97's microsd card, you can eject it and then power up the RS-97. Now we're gonna boot up the RS-97 by turning it on, and you should see this new logo, which is new for the 2.0 firmware. And if you see a bunch of emulators when you hit the right trigger, you've done the right thing. If it's blank, that means you didn't copy all the files over. So make sure you do that. So I'm just gonna sample a couple of games for you. So right now I'm gonna run the Game Boy Advance emulator, and I'm gonna run Bomberman Tournament. So I'm gonna quickly go through this and select it. There's usually a couple of emulators for various systems. So there's 2 Game Boy emulators. This is the one that I'm running, REGBA. And if you hit the brightness button in the top here, I'll bring up the menu where you can load save states and exit the game. But I'll try to get through this quickly so you can see a little bit of the action. Hit start, start again, battle, and hit A, player 1, and then A again, and we're just going to select the default. And here we go. So this is Bomberman Tournament for Game Boy Advance. Nothing really special, but just wanted to let you see that it is running. Hit the menu button at the top, the brightness button, and then exit.